LaxFactor Podcast. What is up, lacrosse fans? You're watching another episode of the LaxFactor Podcast, and today we're going to use the new format. The new format is we are going to check an item of news, just a quick hit item of news. We are going to get a little bit into pro lacrosse, and we're going to get a little bit into college lacrosse. And every podcast through the rest of the summer into the fall, which there'll be about 3 or 4 of them, that's the format we'll use. We'll go a little bit longer form in terms of the base podcast, and then we'll probably put out clips that cover each of the 3 segments that we do. Before I get into it more, if you want to support us, we're going to have a new way and a new pitch. Instead of doing the whole ad and all that crap in the beginning of this, we're just going to say, if you'd like to support our efforts, support the channel, support the podcast, simply go to LaxFactor.com, or you can go to LaxFactor.com/support, and it will give you a bunch of quick options on how you can support the podcast, support the channel, and help us get to the point where we can put out more content more of the time. But I digress. I wanted to get into the quick hit news item first, and that is Syracuse is going to play at UAlbany for the first time in 2020. It's been a one-sided rivalry, not only in the fact that Syracuse is 16-2, I believe it is, over the course of this rivalry. They've played every year since 2004, but they've played every year since 2004 at the Carrier Dome, and typically very early in the season, which made sense that Albany would want to get a guaranteed game early where there was no chance it was going to get canceled due to the weather despite their turf field, and Syracuse had the dome to allow them to accomplish that. So, as I said, they've played every year since 2004. Cuse has a 16-2 advantage, so it's very lopsided in that way, although it's been a lot closer recently, and it was closer in terms of the output and the final scores of the games for quite a while now. Albany picked up their first win against Syracuse in 2013 off a Miles Thompson goal assisted by brother Lyle, and they juiced the Orange again in 2018, beating up on Cuse in the Dome in 2018, and it was a brutal beating in Connor Field's senior year where Albany came in and just put it on the Orange. Syracuse couldn't score, and Albany just kept scoring over and over. And then Syracuse returned the favor last season. Fields graduates, they're hurting. Their numbers, the quality in their roster's down a little bit, and they're having problems with Nanacoke, and Syracuse came back and beat them badly in 2019 in the Dome. So that's good. But to now play the first game at UAlbany, and actually play it on their campus, that's a huge deal. And I feel like it's really important for this rivalry. Besides the Dome, I love watching Syracuse play at Cornell. I go to the Syracuse-Cornell game as often as I can, typically every other year, and I'll miss a year here and there. But watching Syracuse and Cornell play at Cornell is incredible, partly because the Cornell field, it's one of the best fields to watch a lacrosse game, even though you sit back a little far in the stadium, but they've got kind of an old Coliseum-like designed stadium. You can watch the sunset in the distance as you're watching the game. Just a beautiful place to watch a game. And then Syracuse also, plays at Colgate every other year also. So they already have in-state rivalries with teams where they do travel and they play every other edition of the game at that place's field, at their place, and it only makes sense that they would do this with Albany, especially as Albany's picked up in profile. The game's traditionally been played in February. This year's edition will be played in April 3rd. That makes sense. Let's make sure that the weather's cleared up a little bit. And Casey Stadium in itself is a great venue. I played there before it was Casey Stadium, back when it was just a grass field and they were still D2. And I played for Cuse that year, 1996, and we actually beat Albany at their place. So that was cool, but I've gotten to play there, but it wasn't Casey Stadium and it wasn't nearly as cool as it is now. And they've had success in packing that stadium full and playing big teams. They've played Maryland there. They've played Yale there. They've played North Carolina there, Cornell. Those are the most notable teams that they played there, on top of just beating up on their America East schedule at home. But the Maryland, Yale, and North Carolina games, those were really big games and highly anticipated games, and the turnout was incredible. So when Cuse comes to town, guaranteed sellout at Casey Stadium, standing room only. There's going to be people standing around the fences and things of that sort, but that's going to be huge, and Casey Stadium will be on fire through all of those through all of the rivalry games that they end up playing there. It's going to be a pretty big deal. Now, in the next segment, we want to get into the PLL. PLL had a big weekend, huge weekend for the PLL in reality. Every team that needed to win in order to have a shot at the playoffs, they did so. it was pretty, overall it was pretty exciting because you have four teams that were I guess I shouldn't say four teams. You had two or three teams that were three teams jostling for that final playoff spot or for, some sort of meaning in where they were sitting through the weekend. And all four teams that needed to kind of win to get in did so. But the biggest part of this weekend was it was played at UAlbany. We were just talking about Casey Stadium, and it was played at Casey Stadium, and a bunch of UAlbany alums on the roster for the Chaos. So that was pretty huge. And then on top of it also, and I thought this was interesting just in terms of the weekend play, Kavanaugh and Schreiber each stuck 2-point buzzer beaters at the end of the half to end the halves of each of their games. So that's a pretty big deal. We had, and one of them, I believe it tied the game up. I'm thinking and then in Schreiber's case, I think it may have given them a 2-goal lead going into the half. I'm not sure exactly, but as we look at the games, the Friday night or the Saturday night game was really the UAlbany reunion. Guys like Connor Fields and McClancy and Ray and Thompson, they all got to come back home and play for the Chaos at Albany. So it was pretty much a home game for the Chaos, the way the crowd worked out. Atlas, they needed to win this game, and they needed to, play into the margin a little bit to even have a shot at the playoffs. They end up doing that. The Atlas ends up winning this game 12-9 over the Chaos. The Atlas actually had the toughest path this weekend to get into the playoffs, but still got the win over the Chaos, one of the best teams in the PLL. So that was a pretty big deal. Another oddity in that game, Thompson, Ray, and McClancy all scored in this game prior to Fields, and the crowd was pumped to see them score. They were pumped to get to score on their old home turf. You could just see it in the smiles. Thompson tore it up. I think Thompson actually had a hat trick possibly before Fields got his first goal, and Fields didn't get his first goal until 2 minutes with under 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and that got the Chaos to within 11-9, but it was all for naught as they end up losing 12-9. But I found that funny. In the homecoming, Connor Fields did not tear it up. Tucker Durkin played very tough against Connor Fields all game long. It was reminiscent to me of the way that Yale played Fields, insanely physical, beat the hell out of him every chance they got, and every time he touched the ball, just slap checks and, pretty much straight up just brutal slashes. But it works. When you're trying to deter a player like Fields, you got to beat him up a little bit, get on his hands, get on his arms. The hands, part of the arm, folks. That's just how it works at this level. So I thought Durkin and company played him very similar to the way that Yale played him in his senior year, both in the Ivy League tournament and in the playoffs. So I thought that was interesting. And then another note was Concannon. Alex Concannon, he played out of his mind to help Atlas get this win. Without his efforts, Atlas, they don't get this win at all. Another must-win was the Redwoods. I think the Redwoods scenario was win and they're in, and they end up playing the Chrome, so they've got pretty easy path to victory there. They got smoked last weekend, so everyone was like, hey, what Redwoods team are we going to get? And it was close through the first half. The Chrome came out tough. The Chrome came out and actually got a lead, and I think it was a 4-2 lead prior to giving up a 5 or 6 goal run to end up giving the lead back to the Redwoods for good. Crazy situation with Queener. Queener gets I believe it was 8 minutes worth of penalties for cross-checking the shit out of Jules Hennenberg in the neck, broke his stick over Hennenberg's neck. So that was pretty brutal. And then two other guys got in a skirmish after, and they both got 5+ penalty minutes. I want to say 6. I want to say the two guys that got in a skirmish after got 6 minutes each, and Queener got 8, something like that. But it was a boatload of penalty minutes that were handed out. And I heard a lot of people say with a cross-check, it wasn't just the cross-check. He cross-checked Hennenberg in the neck. It looked pretty blatantly like he was done kind of on purpose, like, hey, I'm going to cross-check the shit out of this guy in his face. And then he kind of stood over him a little bit. In slow motion, it looks a lot worse than it did in fast motion, but it was a cross-check, run through this guy, break my stick on his neck, drop my shit, and then kind of stand over him with my legs draped across him, like standing over top of Hennenberg as he just laid there nearly lifeless. So it was a pretty brutal check. In real speed, it might not have been as bad, and I don't know what Queener's intentions were. Queener's a good dude, so I don't think he's trying to kill Hennenberg, just trying to make a big play and be physical. But moral of the story, people were mad that Queener didn't get ejected. They did watch the replay, and they decided not to eject him. But shit, man, 8 penalty minutes? That's a lot of penalty minutes. And that kind of, I don't know what it did in the end, because it didn't result in any huge swing or anything like that. But that was interesting, and a lot of people were mad that he wasn't ejected. But they did bury them in the box for quite a while. And again, it was all for nothing. Redwoods, they go on to smoke them and clinched their playoff spot thanks to the large point differential, which put the pressure on everybody else. Garnsey was the story of this game beyond that cross-check. Garnsey goes 4 goals, 3 assists. He had a one-handed goal and a one-handed assist. The one-handed assist came first, where he was kind of driving down the right alley and was getting hung up, just tossed a one-handed pass across his body, and that was pretty sweet. And I think that was Kavanaugh that caught that, and Kavanaugh actually caught it backhanded because it was a little off, and then buried it backhanded as well with his left, I believe, on that opposite side. So that was pretty cool. And then he was driving down that same alley off the wing, and he scored a one-handed goal, very similar to the one-handed assist that he had. And another good key point in that game, it ended up being 18-7. Redwoods smoked the Chrome, but another cool thing in that game was Kavanaugh returned the favor, got a little bit of revenge for Hennenberg, and he planted Queener. It actually, in full fast motion, it looked like he fucking planted him badly. In slow-mo, you could see that Queener kind of got up in the air a little bit, and then Kavanaugh kind of ran through him. But it was a sweet hit, and it was redemption. A teammate getting redemption for a cheap shot on Hennenberg. So I thought that was cool as well. I didn't even put the final score in here, but the Whip Snakes and the Archers played, and the Archers needed to simply win and get in. They did, and the Archers actually came out 4-1 lead. Whips went on a 6-goal run. They led 7-4 at the end of the half, and the Whips took over, and I thought the game was over to the point where I almost stopped watching. To a degree, I was watching from a distance, I should say. We had a fire in the backyard, and I was watching it from a distance. And then the Archers, they go on – the Whips went almost 23 minutes without a goal. During that time, the Archers go on a 5-goal streak and ended up taking a 2-goal lead. And then the Whips broke that streak, making it 9-8 with a hair over 4 minutes left. And Will Manny scored on a sick skip feed from Schreiber, and that was actually a sick pass where Schreiber finds Manny on the opposite side of the field. That gives the Archers a 2-goal lead with 3:39 left, and then Schreiber took advantage of a whiff by a pressing pole. The Whips were trying to pressure Schreiber out top, just to try to force a turnover, and they were trying. The pole tried to jump a pass. Schreiber catches it and then streaks. Pretty much has a 5-on-4 coming back down that from the top actually, and he ends up running through the shorty that tried to come pick him up and then scored a goal to put it away. And a lot of credit goes to Drew Adams. He played a ridiculous second half, which helped in that comeback bid for the Archers, and that got them into the playoffs. Now let me open up this little thing here so we can rip through the stupid seeds. Of course, my tablet's going to give me issues here as I try to open this Instagram link is what I'm going to do. Opening it in Chrome, and here we go. So playoff spots are set. We have the Whip Snakes getting the 2 seed and the Chaos getting the 1 seed. So they're going to play each other, and I think what they're calling the championship bracket. And then we've got the losers bracket is what I would call it already. The 3 seed would be the Archers, and the 4 seed would be the Redwood. So how this works is the winner of the game 1, the winner of the Chaos and the Whip Snakes game, they advance to the championship game. And it's that simple. You win, you're in the championship. The loser of that first, I guess we'll call it not even really a semifinal, but the loser of that game 1, the championship bracket, they go on to play the winner of game 2. And game 2 being the Archers and the Redwoods. And then those teams play to get into the championship. So for both of them, pretty much, for the Whips, for whoever loses that first game and whoever wins the second game, they've got to, pretty much play 2 games to get into the championship, whereas the winner of the championship bracket gets right in. So not a bad idea. You lose to the number 1 seed as the number 2 seed. So that's the idea here. Instead of setting it up so 1 plays 4, they're setting it up so the top 2 teams get to play each other to decide who gets into the championship, and then the number 2 or whatever team loses that top game, they get another chance at still getting into the championship. So what you end up having here is not a scenario in which the 4 seed could upset the 1, and then you have the 2 crappier seeds, because you could feasibly end up with the 3 and the 4 seed playing in the championship by that logic, and that's not a bad thing to have happen. But this gives the top 2 teams the best chance of getting into the championship, so it gives you a very good chance that you end up with the best teams in this league playing it out for the championship. And I think that's important, especially just because of when you're dealing with a 6-team league. That's not a bad way to go. So it'll be interesting to see, though, because no other pro lacrosse league does this. Very few, any other professional sports in America run their playoff structure this way. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well. And no real news from the MLL this weekend, simply because I didn't watch it. Once again, as I say, I am kind of you all, in the sense that if you are one of those people that is trying to get into pro lacrosse and just hasn't been able to make it click yet, that's me. And I'm not even going to fake it. I am not officially the media, so I don't have to fake it. For the most part, I didn't go this weekend. I had applied for a press pass for the Albany game. I got denied because we are also a retail outlet, but they did offer me free tickets. So I'm also pleased with the PLL for offering me free tickets, and I didn't even take advantage of it, but I thank them for that courtesy, and I will definitely take advantage of that in the future. So they kind of won my attention this week, but it was actually a very exciting week of lacrosse. It was legitimately worthy of talking about the way that they had a lot of teams with things on the line to get in. All of those teams got wins. So right down to the very last game, you were watching and you were wondering, hey, how's this going to shake out? I'm not going to pretend I cared all that much, but it made it far more interesting, and it was just an extra storyline that they hadn't had in earlier weeks. Another incredible thing worth talking about, and it was an awesome moment for the league, and they're going to use this to market. They have the helmets. They have guys mic'd in their helmets. So after a goal, they are talking to Trevor Baptiste as he's getting ready to take the next face-off. They're talking to him in his helmet, and they're asking him, hey, what's going on so far? You guys have been pretty evened up. And they said, what are you going to do to try to change your strategy? And he's talking to him, and as he's talking to them, he eventually says, oh, I got to go, because he's literally getting ready to go down and take the face-off. He gets down to take the face-off, immediately pinches, pushes, wins the draw clean, and runs down, scores a goal. And they're immediately right back in his ear again. And they said to him something to the effect of, hey, what'd you do differently on that one? And he said something hilarious to the effect of, it's that speed, boy, or something like that. Whatever it was fucking incredible. It was hilarious. Baptiste himself is just a great all-around guy, and he is going to be a huge ambassador for the PLL. He's going to have proven his worth, and he's going to prove worthy of them putting him in that situation as being one of the faces of the league, and they're in his helmet a lot. They're constantly giving him sideline interviews, so he's going to prove he was worthy there. But this was a special moment, and I know that they're going to use this to push the league more, and rightfully so. It was cool. You got to watch it. And I mean, if you just go to the PLL's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, they have a video up on it, so you can actually see that clip. And if I feel brave enough to risk getting this video demonetized, maybe I'll play it for you right now.
He's got a lot of weight, so it's both ways. It's hard to push us off. I gotta go.
I gotta go, Brendan. We're gonna stick with him here on this face-off.
Well, he made quick work of him that time.
What do you want, boy? You really did have to go somewhere, huh?
Yeah.
What was the difference on that one between the other ones?
That's speed, boy.
And if you heard the clip or saw the clip, that means I played it. If I didn't, it means I decided to cut that out. So it'll be interesting to see what I decide. Did I decide to add the clip, or did I decide to leave it out? We don't know. And the next thing I wanted to talk about, and this is one segment we're going to do through the rest of this, where I want to talk about guys who need to step up big for their teams in 2020. So we're ditching pro lacrosse now, and now we're going to get into the college game here a little bit. And a team I hadn't done yet, and I wanted to do this team specifically, was I wanted to cover Penn State. So I'm going to do a full preview of Penn State, but I really just wanted to kind of quickly talk about what's Penn State dealing with here coming into 2020, and who are a couple of guys that actually have to step up big time to either prove themselves or to just step up big for their team. And as we talk about Penn State, offensively, they return a lot, and they return in terms of attack. They return their attack, and they're going to be good. They get Grant Ament back, but Grant Ament, he doesn't need to prove anything. he came out and proved that he was one of the best players in the country, maybe the second best player in the country, certainly top 5 on everybody's book, and I'd put him at top 3 in almost everybody's book, and I argue coming into this season he may be the best player in the country. But there's some guys like Chris Gray and Michael Sowers and Jeff Teat that might try to say, hey, what about me? And I'd say, yes, they're in the same league as Grant Ament. Grant Ament is just perfect for the system that he plays in. But he needs to have another huge year because he wants to win the Tewaaraton, and he wants his team to have an equally successful season as they did last year. It's going to be tough, though, because while they do return nearly everybody on the offensive side of the ball, defensively they lose a lot. But we'll get into that in a little bit. They really only lose Nick Spillane, and Spillane was a huge contributor on this team, a huge team leader, but that's the main offensive firepower they lose. But they return Mac O'Keefe, who was Ament's wingman. They return Ament, and like they did last year, they're going to tear the country apart, I suspect. But other guys that are coming back are going to be equally as needed. So here are guys that need to step up to give Penn State a shot. We already know O'Keefe and Ament are going to have huge seasons. Both of them need to not necessarily step up, but they need to rinse and repeat. They need to do it again. A guy who really has to step up, and I don't think it's going to be a problem for him at all, Dylan Folds. He was a 55-plus point scorer from last year. He's back. He'll be leaned upon heavily in his senior season of 2020 to help kind of make up for the loss of Spillane. More than capable, though. The kid is an incredible lacrosse player. And then another guy that's going to have to step up, a younger guy, Jack Kelly, 51-point scorer from last year. He's going to have, I think it's going to affect him a lot. You lose Spillane, and Kelly was a young guy last year, still put up 51 points last year, so that was huge. But I think that the added reps that they're going to get without Spillane, who was an offensive threat as well, I think Folds and Kelly are going to eat most of that production, and you're going to see ideally both of them get somewhere. Probably both of them will have the ability to improve upon their point totals anywhere from 5 points to 10 points. For Folds, he's already at 55. I don't know how many more looks you end up getting, but I would say he should be able to repeat that 55 to 60 point 55-plus point performance, and I think he'll get 60-plus. And then Kelly, he should crest 55 to 60 points as well, assuming both of them stay healthy. But they are going to have to stay healthy, and they're going to have to step up big time and just improve their offensive presence and their leadership capabilities a little bit. But both of them are completely up to the task. Folds is incredible. Kelly's incredible. So all good things there. Penn State offensively, they are not going to skip a beat. The one thing that I was surprised about, because I wasn't fully aware of this, Penn State, they lost a lot on the defensive side of the ball, and that's going to make it all the more important for Colby Knies to have a big season. I expected Colby Knies. I think I picked him as my preseason goalie of the year, and I ended up giving it to Stover, who was deserving at Loyola. But Colby Knies, he's an incredible goalkeeper, and I think for him, I dare say he'd almost tell you he had a down season last year. I expected him to be a little bit more solid, especially because the defense that he had in front of them was really solid. So I'm not sure if pace of play plays into that a little bit. You see that in football, where teams that have a huge pace of play end up struggling a little bit more defensively, at least with the numbers. So I'm not sure if that played. Maybe it's just a sophomore slump, but I think Knies is going to have to step up big, because you lose Chris Sabia and 2 or 3 other polls. I want to say they lose 2 of their 3 starting close D. Don't quote me on that, but losing Sabia by itself is going to leave a big hole. But they definitely graduated in a lot of polls. So I think Colby Knies and just the rest of that defense is going to have to gel and step up and play tough. And that is pretty much this episode. The idea here moving forward is that we're just going to start getting more into the long form content. We're having issues with content creator, well, not even content creators, but copyright holders of the highlight videos starting to not flag or copyright strike our videos, but they're starting to claim our videos, and they're even starting to claim fucking podcasts, which is ridiculous, because if I show highlights in this podcast, it is 100% fair use, and we are 100% allowed to do it, especially if we had a lawyer to back us. But the problem being, the last 2 podcasts we did, the Virginia and the Syracuse previews, the 2020 previews, both of them claimed by the copyright holder. We disputed both of them and we lost. So we could dispute it further, but we would risk a copyright strike if YouTube decided not to side with us, which I think they would, but it's just not worth it for us. So we're going to let them claim them. And what's going to be important moving forward for us is how we monetize these videos beyond YouTube. So as I'm always going to say at the end of these videos moving forward, if you want to support us, go to LaxFactor.com/support, and it will give you options for supporting us ranging from just a $1, $5 donation all the way up to buying gear. You can buy t-shirts and shorts, and all of that helps us out. We're also going to look into doing a subscription service. And by subscription service, I mean dirt cheap, like $5 a year, $10 a year, or if you buy a specific pair of shorts or a t-shirt, that would include a subscription, a year-long subscription to a service, which would, what we're thinking we'll do. And you guys give us some ideas and let us know in the comments what you would like to see if we did do a subscription service. But the idea initially being we will give you access to all of our long-form podcasts. Shows like these will give you access to them at least 24 hours, the audio version at least 24 hours in advance, meaning we'll record it, we'll clean the audio, and we will throw it up for subscribers to review right away and listen to right away. And then we're going to play with giving you 12 to 24 hours early video access as well. And then we'll probably do private Q&As. Or maybe we'll just let you field questions. I don't know. What do you think? If we were to offer a $5 to $10 per year subscription service where we're going to give those supporters a little bit of content that other people don't get, what would you like to see? Do you want to just ping us with questions? Do you want us to maybe have callers? Let subscribers call in and ask questions and things of that sort, or at least do like some kind of video question. Any ideas you have for how we can monetize this channel that all of you supporters would be down with? I'm all ears for the most part. And then another thing that we wanted to try to do, and we haven't put the call out hard for this, but are you interested in creating content? Do you want to start submitting videos where maybe you're just talking about your favorite team? Maybe you're talking about your travel team, anything. Is there anybody else out there that wants to get behind a camera and put content out, and we can help produce that content? We'll lend you the channel to put your content up, and we will share any revenue that's derived from said content, at least in the form of the YouTube ads and the YouTube revenue that we get from it. So if you're somebody who wants to put your beautiful mug on camera, because Lord knows I do not have a beautiful mug, but I'm putting it on camera for you anyway. If you're of the mind that you think you could do this or you want to do this, I am all for it as well. Just start sending us videos. Hit me up on Facebook. It's facebook.com/LaxFactor, or on Twitter. Our handle is just @LaxFactor, twitter.com/LaxFactor. Hit us up. Send us a video, 2-minute clip, 10-minute rambling. What do you think about the new dive rule? All of that stuff. I'm going to talk about that in the next podcast, actually, because they did actually implement my exact proposal for trying to improve that dive rule and making it easier for officials. So I digress. I'm done. That is it. If you want to support us, go to LaxFactor.com/support. And moving forward here, we're going to do at least one long form podcast a week, if not two. And anything you want to see us cover, any format ideas you have, if you want to contribute, you want to send us videos and get clips put on the podcast, you just a fan that wants to give us a shout out, we'll put you on here. Go to our Facebook or our Twitter accounts and send us those videos, and we'll throw crap up. But as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week, maybe even in just a couple of days. Thanks a lot. Bye.